Hi everyone, it's 5:30 in Jingmai Mountain. We're starting early today because we have lots of tea, so let's not waste time. This is some nice leaves from Ganlong Garden, which is located on Tapingzhang, close to Mai Sao Kan, so it should be pretty good tea. And today I will use this first video to talk about the most important topic this year, which is it the demise of puerh tea now? Is it the collapse of the market? Because you know, in the past, since COVID, it's been quite difficult to sell the tea. So during COVID, we blamed the slowdown of the puerh tea industry on COVID. It was quite stagnant, but during that time we also found some new markets. You know, like there was the Jebo, the live streaming on TikTok, which got very popular. So in a way, there were many new opportunities for the business. But at the end of COVID, of course, we were very hopeful, and we can see that in my videos back in 2022 or 23. We all expected the market to catch up, and we expected people to spend their money on good puerh tea. And it turns out it didn't happen. Instead, the consumption dropped, and that's true for almost everything. Currently in China, only restaurants, I think, are doing well, or street food, or very cheap stuff that you can get off TikTok and Taobao. But for the more expensive things, like good tea, it's been pretty bad. And you know, in the past, since 2007, you could say, there's been a steady growth in the price of puerh tea. So the farmers were used to a 10% increase each year. And there's a psychological thing at play. It's easy to go up, but it's really hard to swallow the pill of recession. It's really hard to lower your prices, which means that despite the lack of demand in the past few years, the prices have remained stable. This was also helped by a couple of years of drought. I think 2020, like from 2020 to 2024, were all pretty dry years with a very limited production. We'll see what happens this year, but it doesn't feel like a drought now. It feels like the tea trees don't look as stressed as in the past years, so we can expect maybe a slightly higher yield than in the past, which means a flood of unwanted tea on the market. There are very few buyers coming to the mountains now. So it seems that the craze for puerh tea is over. And so what are we going to do? I can see some farmers are growing other crops actually besides tea. There's been a specialization of the farmers towards tea in all the famous tea mountains, which means that, like in the past, people would grow different things. They would rear pigs and raise chicken, but they've dropped all those activities to specialize and be like full-time tea farmers. And now we can see a reverse of that trend. And you have some people in Jingmai who take time to grow other crops now that tea doesn't sell as well. But I think this year is ripe for a price collapse, you know, because we said that with a lower demand, if it was like a perfect market, you could expect that a lower demand would trigger an immediate slight drop in price, right? So if the demand drops by 10%, maybe the price could decrease by 10%, and then you would have the demand again. But it's not what's happening. The demand drops, but the farmers don't want to lower their prices. So the prices have been stable for like 3-4 years, while maybe actually they should have been decreasing. And it means at some point that there will be a market readjustment. So you could say it's almost like an inverted bubble. There is less demand, but the price stays the same. There's that disconnect, and at some point it has to be corrected. And it is corrected when everybody realizes when you cross a certain threshold, like the equivalent of a bubble collapse. It means that people all realize that the goods are overvalued. And it's not a bad thing actually for the puerh tea economy to lower the price, because it means that hopefully the demand will increase again. If that nice gushu tea was twice as cheap as it was before, it maybe it will attract new consumers, maybe more maybe more consumers will be able to afford it, because for now gushu is quite a luxury product in China, huh? So it's possible that we'll go through that price drastic decrease this year. By how much, it's hard to say. It could be 20%, 30%, 40%, who knows? But I think it will not drop like an NFT. You know, that tea still has value, especially the good tea. You still have lots of tea enthusiasts who are willing to buy this tea. It's just a matter of price. And actually, in the past years, it's been quite the same. You had the official price in the village, but if you really wanted to sell the tea, maybe you had to give a discount to the buyers. So in the end, when people really needed money, they could sell the tea, but at a much lower price. But what does that mean for us, and what does that mean for you? Does it mean that good puerh tea will be much more affordable in the near future? I would think yes. I think it's overall a good thing for the industry, because it means that a lot of companies will go bankrupt and only the real passionate people will remain. At least that's what I hope. You know, a lot of people during the puerh tea hype were in just for the money, just because they saw it as an easy way to make money. And now that it's not as popular as it was before, we will probably see an increase in the quality and in the care for the good product. I think it's a bit like a lot of industries which were very popular at some point, but have kind of died out since then. You still have a niche audience that remains. Now for the Western market, if we look at our business, for example, we're fortunate to have a lot of customers who are willing to pay different prices for the tea. Okay, so currently the teas we sell, they go from like $30 a cake to $300 or even more a cake. So we have a wide range of prices and customers who buy accordingly. I think it's great in both ways. We won't be able to make the tea cheaper than $30 a cake, because what really limits the price is the cost of shipping. You know, I don't want the postal fees to be more expensive than the cake itself. So I think we will keep that threshold of $30 a cake. But when it comes to, well, what I hope we can do is have better cheap teas and also have better expensive teas, because we'll see, maybe for $300 a cake, maybe now soon you'll be able to get a true Laobanzong cake or something very prestigious. We will see. Now, of course, that collapse is not clear cut. We still have to see. Usually the price of tea starts cheap, like we're still in the early season for the gushu, so it starts quite cheap because nobody's placing orders. And since this year it's cheaper than last year, I think a lot of tea buyers are reluctant on placing an order. You know, like they want to wait, and everybody wants the price to drop. So at some point, if the tea is growing and the tea farmers feel that they still don't have orders, that's when they will offer a lower price, and that's when the orders will come in. So we will see what happens. It's hard to say by how much the price will decrease, but I think it will. But what's for sure is we will guarantee a good quality. And in Jingmai, the fact that there's a low demand now, it gives us more power, because our business is doing well. We still need more tea than last year. And so it means that now we are able to access more gardens, like for example, this Ganlong garden, which probably had other buyers the years before, and this year they are willing to sell us the leaves, and we're also willing to pay a bit more than the than the market price in order to secure those good leaves. So I think for you tea enthusiasts all over the world, it's actually a good time for puerh tea, because you can expect to have maybe a better price for value in the near future. And I also think for the Chinese tea industry, there's really an opportunity to do more exports. Yesterday, I just found, I just ran into some government officials which I know well, and we had a long talk while cooking tea about the future of the industry. And everybody is a bit embarrassed now because the tea is not selling in China, but I suggested that doing exports on a larger scale could be a way to save the industry, because the world is big and this tea is good. And if it's more affordable, if it's not a luxury product anymore, then maybe it's possible to promote it all over the world. But of course, it's something that requires some support, either from the government or like the investment of big companies. It's a bit hard for like our small business to carry the whole industry like this. But of course, I talked, and I think we'd be interested too in doing more wholesale. One thing that really limits the tea industry currently is the pesticide issue. There's a low trust. A lot of teas have pesticides, and as a result, because of the Chinese government policy and because of the other countries' policies, like trading Chinese tea is much more complicated than trading like Indian tea or Kenyan tea. So a lot of trading companies just don't want to get into that Chinese tea. But actually, I think especially if there's a price drop, it will be the best price for value you can get in the world. The Yunnan tea, be it Yunnan black tea, white tea, or puerh tea. So I'm very hopeful for this industry. Now, when it comes to the tea farmer, our main mission here for the past 10 years has been to help the tea farmers. And I think that's where I feel that we need to do more wholesale. We need to trade larger volumes, because you see, for a given profit, you could sell a few products for a large profit. So you could say what we do in retail, because we sell by the cake, or you could sell a lot of product for a small profit. Overall, your absolute amount of profit would be the same, but in which case would you help more the farmers? Well, of course you would help them more if you did the big wholesale, because it means you would be buying a lot more tea. Okay, so I think that's something we also want to turn towards in order to help the farmers, because now in Jingmai everybody is coming to sell the tea leaves, and we need to do something about it. So that's about it for these thoughts. Yeah, the last thing is we still have to learn about the real price elasticity of puerh tea. You know, price elasticity, like for example, if rice is cheap, for example, you won't have more demand than if it's expensive, because people just eat a given amount of rice. Same for the gasoline you add in your car. Whatever the price, you have to pay it. But for example, you could say like luxury goods, like luxury watches, these kind of things, they will, the demand will vary a lot depending on the price. If you can afford it, you buy it. If you cannot, you don't buy it. And I think tea is a bit like this. And we still have to learn to what extent, like if we were to reduce the price, for example, on our website, would we really have a lot more orders, or would we have the same amount? Among our potential customers, is there a lot of people who would like to buy good tea but just cannot afford it, and a price decrease would mean they could afford it? I think that's something we can only test, actually, and so we'll see, I think. So that's about it that's my thoughts on the current state of the industry, on the potential price drop. And of course, it's not absolutely sure. There are complex dynamics. Right now, the price is quite low, but it could increase. So we'll see. But anyway, we're committed to giving you the best tea for the money that we can. So I'm gonna finish cooking that tea now. Just needs a little bit more of steaming, and we'll be done. So thank you for watching, and see you later. Bye bye.